Still mad.
Oh. Shit. Alright, I got my friend Brandon here. Commando Brando. I got Corey here. I got Jay here.
Hi, Corey.
Surprisingly, I got me here. And now we're going to continue talking about wrestling memories, but we're going to talk more in general about some of our favorite moments and favorite wrestlers. Some of the good stuff. This is going to be the happy, somewhat, except in Jay's case, spoilers, and reminiscing. This is going to be the reminiscing episode. So Corey, why don't you go?
Does reminiscing bleed into the present? Is
if
it
you
all
wanted
good
to.
memories?
If you wanted to.
When I was young, it was definitely Kane.
Yeah.
As I got older and pulled it apart more, I was like, this is kind of the same match every time. And so Kane really fell off.
Poor Kane.
But also at some
Especially
point,
after he lost the mask, am I right?
Yeah, the first time.
The day the music died. Yeah.
But because also he back in the day he only had one world championship run and it was like a day long, and that always stuck in my craw. Like he's gonna come back, he's gonna have another one, and then he did. He had several, and some actually lasted quite a bit. And at that point, I was able to like bury that hatch and be like, you know what? I really like Kane. Kane had his moment. We're good with Kane.
Move it on.
If I was gonna like try to fill out the rest of the top, like Daniel Bryan would now be the tippity top.
Yes.
And so like after a long age of darkness, Daniel Bryan was definitely like the light that was like, oh shit, wrestling is real again.
Well,
and then that
aside from Punk, CM Punk.
I was gonna say, well,
Summer of 2011.
Oh no, that night, that one night, wrestling was legit, just real.
And then you and I were together. We watched that pay-per-view.
We were skeptical and depressed and jaded all the way up to the finish. In the middle of the match, we're like, okay, it's interference and then a DQ. Okay, but then Del Rio comes out, and then he left, and we were both like, what? That's not. What is happening now?
That was a weird week too, or like a weird couple weeks too, because right before that, we had just randomly on a lark ordered a TNA pay-per-view that was like it was an X Division focused pay-per-view, and it was all right. It was okay. Like there was the final, or what's the one where they climb the thing and get the X? Ultimate X
Games,
whatever.
X Games. Tony Hawk. They do it on a skateboard and a half pipe.
Yeah, we watched
that. I'd pay to see that.
We watched a pretty good TNA pay-per-view, and then we watched that pay-per-view, and that was for 2011, that was an unusually solid block of wrestling.
Yeah.
And then it went away again. So what are some of your other favorite wrestlers?
Favorite wrestlers?
Yeah, let's just do that.
You already got
Kane and Bryan.
And CM Punk, I was going to say, was also going to fill that out.
Yeah.
And then if I'm going more into the Wayback Machine, Chris Jericho I always really liked.
Oh.
When I played the video games, I would make a tag team called Y2 Kane.
Oh, get it?
Oh.
Get it?
That's true. I need to sidestep for a minute and point out the fact that there were gaps in Corey's wrestling watching.
Oh, yeah, no, I gave up.
But you were able to fill in the gap.
Somewhat.
As a kid, when you were playing WrestleMania 2000 on the N64.
Well, no, that was sure. That one was like, if anything, 2000 was kind of filling in gaps from before I watched.
Sure.
And then it was a lot. Then at some point, I gave up during the WCW invasion.
Because you,
a lot of people gave up during the WCW
I'm just pointing
invasion.
out that you've told me before that you were aware of certain characters and storylines and stuff because of the game. Like you knew.
I mean, at this point, I've read all the wikis.
Oh,
but
that's cheating. That's cheating.
But yeah, then there was a period of time when I wasn't watching, but I was still playing like the SmackDown games. And so there's a lot of stuff where like the Chuck and Larry, I don't remember what their names are. Chuck and Bill. Billy and Chuck. Like that, I knew that happened because they're characters from the game. I don't think I ever saw them like in real life because I just wasn't watching.
You missed 3 minutes.
I did, but you've shown me that.
I did. Jay? What about you, man? We're heading into dark waters.
Yeah.
Well, right now...
Take a deep breath.
Right now, I'm really enjoying Lucha Underground.
He's into Underground, yeah.
So, like, Aerostar, who's like a AAA wrestler.
Masked luchador,
yeah. Comes from space, which
flippity
is
flips.
Mil Muertes, who kind of is along that Undertaker vein, where he's like a dark power, but he's like just a monster of a man. It used to be...
Take a breath.
He who shall not be named.
Just do it. Just do it. No, just do it. Just do it. Fear of a name only gives power to the thing itself. Okay, come on.
Chris Benoit.
I was about to say Chris Benoit.
That was his favorite wrestler ever.
The Pegasus
Dude, he's a
Kid.
badass.
And, like, the way his life ended was...
Yeah, no, that's
terribly
absolutely taints his legacy. It sucks.
It does,
But
because...
he was still one of the greatest wrestlers ever.
He was... And because I don't know why, even though I like Lucha Underground a lot, where there's just people jumping around, flying and stuff,
Yeah.
I always liked, like, the technical...
Submission wrestling.
Submission
Real
wrestling.
Good. Love it.
I mean, he had, friggin' German suplexes, and he had, one off the top rope or whatever, but most of his stuff was very skill-based wrestling, like, mat-based, and I mean, he was one of the few people, as, like, the WWE kept evolving into more what it is today, who had a finisher that was a submission.
Yeah.
Yes.
Other people use submissions, and then it was always just a way of, like, and then he powers out. And, like, at the last second,
I pointed out that when I really liked Punk when he first debuted in the ECW show they had in 2006. In part, I liked the straight edge thing. I liked his moveset and mannerisms, but I really liked that when he first started, he used the Anaconda Vice all the time as his finisher, and that was an awesome finisher. And I'm like, yeah, this is good. Another guy with a submission finisher. I like guys with submission finishers. That's true. And then at some point, that became like a move he did once in a while, but he just did the go to sleep thing all the time. And that's fine, but like I like the submission way better. You know?
I feel that is probably a corporate directive.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But other than that, when I was growing up, I really liked Sting a lot. I don't know why. Back when he had the...
You like
the
Surfer
Blues
Sting.
I did like Surfer Sting.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned in the last one, Legion of Doom. And I think Legion of Doom maybe because I was so close in age and close to my brother that I always thought like we'd be a good tag
We're gonna
team.
be a tag team.
I'm the power guy and he's the speed guy.
Yeah, no, you're gonna hold him up and he's gonna come up the top
And if
rope.
I could wear some face paint and some spiky
That's
shoulder
fine.
pads,
Do it. Do it.
Hell yeah.
I would Mad Max that and look badass.
Shout out to my friend Andy because we also would watch together and we had a tag team. That
Corey
we
and
were setting
Andy
up.
were gonna. What was the name?
Oh, I don't remember. I remember the
Pretend.
finishers
What was the
were
percentage?
like the road to hell, and someone else had to pave the way, and like that was the 1-2 punch.
Get
Take
it.
away the road to hell.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I've always been a big fan of tag team wrestling, and I don't know why. Versus just like singles is fine. Lucha Underground, they do like the
Trios.
the trios, which is really
That's
fun.
a staple of Mexican wrestling.
Yeah, and I like that too. I like it when there's a lot of action running around. One-on-one's good, it's fine. But I've always just been a tag team kind of guy. And speaking of video games, I'd spend more time creating characters than I would playing them.
Real talk.
Yeah.
And I always did like a Legion of Doom. But it was like the news, like,
Sure.
the Descendants of Doom or whatever.
You want to hear how bad I was? With, like, WrestleMania 2000, and then years later with, like, SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, which I think you gave me that copy. I spent time playing the game, but I spent fucking hours creating characters. Creating my main guy was a wrestler named Tempest. That was me. That was my guy with tattoos and long hair and all this shit. And he was like a fucking fierce martial artsy, like, Celtic warrior guy. He was like a fucking mystical kind of guy. Not quite fuck that shit. Not quite like Undertaker, but still in that same mystical character vein. But I would also make a bunch of other wrestlers. I made Brandon's wrestler several times, because Brandon's character that he had come up with was Brimstone, and he was a fiery dude. Get it? And
I was on fire!
And like I would also nerd out enough that I would try to update the rosters. I would try, with the limited means they gave you, to create new wrestlers that came along, right? And so I would try to fucking create, like, Rhino or Raven or whoever wasn't actually on the roster at the time, even though you couldn't quite do it, you know?
You get most of the way
You
there.
could do it. You could have fake Rhino. Yeah, whatever.
I remember for WrestleMania 2000 having sheets of notebook paper with me trying to keep track of a league where I just had the computers fight each other. I'm trying to come up with rules about how to make it interesting, because 2000 had like an interference system. I'm like, okay, when that happens, this is what you do because it's now a new rivalry or whatever.
Yeah.
Didn't last long.
I didn't like the way you came down and interfered in my match,
Yeah.
man.
I'd always do backstory too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
for no reason other than my own enjoyment. And usually, like, the Legion of Doom tag team would be two other wrestlers I already had, and they would be like, "Oh, it's a tag tournament," and then then they become a tag team, and I just have different skins for them.
Two of the worst wrestling game memories, to go on a small tangent for a second, that I had involved those two games. In WrestleMania 2000, it was building Tempest up and then fucking losing to Vince McMahon. You know where I'm going.
Yeah,
in a fucking cage match, a scripted cage match. You had to fight McMahon in a cage match at a pay-per-view. And the mechanics in that game for getting out of the cage were so slow and cumbersome. No matter how much you beat McMahon's asshole in and try to start climbing the cage, and you're sitting there going...
Yeah, that's slow.
Super. It's like you tapping the button and you're not climbing any faster. Next thing you know, Spry Old McMahon pops up and shakes the cage and you fall off again. And but that wasn't the worst. The worst by far. SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. I had built Tempest up. I had given him hella stats. He was a fucking badass. I was world champion, okay? I was going into WrestleMania, the main event of WrestleMania, as the defending WWF champion, right? Stone Cold Steve Austin was my opponent. And I shit you not that I beat his ass so badly that his grandmother felt it. I hit him with 13 finishers. His little body bar was black. The whole thing, head to toe, was black, which means that functionally, according to the rules of the game, that motherfucker shouldn't have been able to get up. And yet I couldn't pin him worth a shit. And then he kept kicking out and kicking out and kicking out. And right at the end of this long match that was all me, no offense from him, he John Cena'd me. He hit me with one stunner, and I couldn't kick out of it. And I lost at WrestleMania. I lost my belt, and I'm like, fuck! And I just spiked my controller right on top of my PS2, and the game tray popped out. I'm like, oh shit. That was.
He's like, oh shit.
But getting back on track, Brandon, favorite wrestlers of all time.
Favorite wrestlers of all time. Going back to 90s.
Yeah.
Bret Hart.
Oh,
of course.
You had the Bret Hart glasses. You did.
I had wannabe.
You had the
wannabe.
You had knockoff pink shades.
Of course, Stone Cold Steve Austin, his rivalry with Mr. McMahon. I will never forget Stone Cold's first stunner to Mr. McMahon.
Because McMahon sold the shit out of him. He had a fucking seizure.
That just kicked off the whole McMahon versus Austin feud, and we all know how that all turned out.
I remember you used
very entertaining period in there.
I remember you used to have a little WWF trunk that had Legion of Doom on it too.
Legion of Doom, the Rockers, Hulk Hogan, and the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, the Rockers.
Poor Marty Jannetty.
Marty Jannetty.
Shout out to Marty Jannetty.
Shout out
to Marty Jannetty.
Wherever you're at, Marty, we still like
I hope you're doing good, bro.
Yeah.
Same here, man.
Fuck Shawn Michaels. Oh, you remember? Were you there? Were you there one of the times that we went and Shawn Michaels was wrestling in the WWE at the time, and I fucking started.
You screwed Brett.
No, I did. To him and Earl Hebner, I started "You Screwed Brett" chants to both of them.
No, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think that's the one I missed with you guys because it was a holiday and I couldn't get
I think it was
off
4th of
work.
July.
Yeah.
It might have been the 4th of July when I went with Chris.
But I remember as a kid,
Yeah.
when Shawn Michaels turned on Marty Jannetty.
Piece of shit.
I always liked Marty Jannetty more
Better,
than like
yeah.
Shawn
Yeah,
Michaels.
same here.
No, he was the Matt Hardy.
Oh my
That's
god!
absolutely.
When he turned on him, and I just
Shawn Michaels, you fucking son of a bitch!
and then Marty Jannetty just was never the same.
Damn
he
him!
wasn't.
Damn him!
No, he wasn't.
He really wasn't
No,
a
he
singles
wasn't.
kind of guy.
There was the New Rockers. He tried to do the New Rockers for a bit with, I think it was with Al Snow before he was Al Snow.
Yeah, he was Leaf Cassidy.
Yeah,
Oh,
Leif
yeah.
Cassidy. And he was also teamed up with 1, 2, 3 Kid at some point, wasn't he?
Yep, he sure
Yeah.
was. They actually won the WWF
1,
Tag Team
2,
titles.
3 Kid.
Get it?
But,
It was wrestling.
yeah, no, get it.
Pinfall.
That's X-Pac. That's X-Pac before he was X-Pac. But okay, so some of my favorite wrestlers of all time, obviously The Undertaker. Even though I'll get into later more recent feelings about The Undertaker, but pretending that shit didn't happen, Undertaker, right? He's the best ever. I loved him because of his theatrics, but also because physically he was, to me, a perfect combo, because he's this dude that's 6'10" or whatever, but he's also pretty fast for his size, pretty agile for his size. I remember one of his match against Kane at WrestleMania 14. He legitimately pulled out, like he grabbed Kane from the side and legitimately hit him with like a spin kick to the face, like a side kick. He got his leg all the way up there and side kicked him to the face. I'm like, holy shit! You know, like I couldn't believe, you know, and like later on, even though it was part of the like the Biker Taker era, and after that though, when he came back as a dead man, like he started integrating more and more like submission moves into his repertoire too. So he kind of had all of the above. And like, I absolutely didn't like when he became the biker. When he came back as the biker, I still rooted for him. He was still my favorite guy, but it wasn't the same. American badass and shit, you know. So then WrestleMania 4 happened. He was buried alive by Kane or whatever, that piece of shit. And like, he came back. He was gonna face fucking maskless Baldy Kane at WrestleMania 20, right? The Madison Square Garden, the fucking like anniversary show. And like, he came out and like, they had all these like vignettes, like ripped off from the movie The Ring and shit, right? And I didn't know for sure, are we gonna get the real Taker back, or is he still just gonna be Biker Taker and they're just being weird, right? Because before he debuted as the biker, there were these weird videos with like these 3 little girls singing this creepy song, right?
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And I thought for sure, he's gonna be Undertaker still. No, he's biker. So then, you were there. We watched WrestleMania 20, and Gong, that was already good. And then like, fat old Paul Bearer, rest in peace, Paul Bearer, came out, and he's like, "Oh yes!" And I was like, yes, you know, and then Undertaker came out, and even though he hadn't been able to grow his hair out that long yet, it was still like ear length, but he had like the hat and the jacket and shit, and I was sold. He came out and beat Kane's ass, and he was doing all of the old dead man, you can't hurt me mannerisms for a second, and it was good. Like, that was one of the last times that I legit popped, right? And you were actually there with me when we went to that Super Show. That was the first time I actually got to see him live.
And there was, I believe, a battle royal or something later on in that night where Jesse and I were legitimately out of energy and voice to give. Because when the lights went out and the Undertaker was coming to the ring, Jesse...
I lost my shit.
I've never seen Jesse so excited in my life.
Wrestling was real until the match started. Because he wrestled like Rene Dupree.
Yeah,
it was nobody, right?
Not sad.
But what mattered was that I got to see him. Another
Super Show was amazing.
Another standout moment from that show, though, was when Booker T came out. You and I were like, "Can you dig it, motherfucker?" And it was good. That was our take on it.
Was that the same? Because that was the one in San Jose, right?
Yeah, San Jose. Yeah.
And they couldn't get Eddie Guerrero's car like onto the stage.
Yeah.
Remember they had to move like half the stage out of the way.
Yeah.
That was a good show because the
prelim match. There was a dark match where we like to feel like we helped get Psychosis hired.
Yes.
Because he had like a tryout match. I think I had actually read ahead of time that he was going to have a tryout match, and I'm like, dude, we got to cheer for him, right? But
yeah, before they had a couple of wrestlers who just were, we were like to the side of the stage.
We were here.
And there was like a little entrance way. And like, I remember Dean Malenko came out.
You geeked out. You're like, dude, Dean Malenko! Because he was an Asian at that point. Like, you're like, oh, hey, Dean! Yeah.
But he was exactly one of those guys, like those WCW days, who were like the technical guys that I loved.
Man of 1,000 holes.
Yeah.
But Jericho was the man of 1,001 holes.
Armbar.
Yeah.
Armbar!
Rey Mysterio came out off to the side before the show, and we yelled at him.
Ray.
Where we were seated.
Yeah.
We got to see a little behind-the-scenes fun.
We did.
La Resistance, I think it was.
La Resistance.
And they wrestled a match where it was just one of those matches where it's like, I don't know if it was them or their opponents, but they weren't gelling well. We all know, like, wrestling's fake.
Sure.
But
sometimes it doesn't work out well.
Sometimes those matches, they don't pull off well.
Clusterfuck,
yeah. And they had a particularly bad match. And from where we were seated, you could see the backstage area. So they finished their match. They go, and they were tag team champs at the time.
Yeah.
They go through the stage opening, and you just see one of them just chuck his championship back in anger that tired of this shit. Just that the match didn't go well.
Yeah.
But I guess a lot of my best memories were either those live memories we had, or the pretty good streak we had of always watching Royal Rumble and WrestleMania together.
Up until 2004. Like, shit started going downhill a bit after
We're
that.
both a little.
We started getting bad luck with SummerSlams, for example. Yeah, but I mean, going back to my list, like Taker, Bret Hart, because he's a submission guy. To me, Bret Hart, there's an argument to be made, but to me, he's the best submission wrestler ever. Like, there's probably other guys that might have been technically better than him, but he was, my guy. Even though I didn't actually get to watch him, especially during his prime, I give Andre a spot. Just because he's fucking Andre. Edge is one of my guys. The list goes on. I liked a lot of the smaller guys and a lot of the technical guys, but there were still some big ones in there. Like Test. I really liked Test because he would knock the fuck out of people with his big boot. Yeah. But when he hit that shit, you could hear it. It was like, it was great.
Brandon and I were actually talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
Like, that sound you get from some of those kicks.
Yeah.
Where does it come from? Are those guys just really getting the shit kicked? Like, it's fake, but it's sold really well and it's loud.
Yeah.
Like,
Definitely.
One of the first, I don't know if it was the first, but one of the first shows that we took Corey to, we actually shit ourselves a little bit because at some point there was a match going on between, like, the fucking Great Khali, right?
And Dolph Ziggler.
And there was a fat guy in front of us that was, like, the only person who was super, whoa, Dolph, yeah! Before he was big. He was a nobody. He was a nobody. And, like,
DZ,
so we're sitting there, and it was an awful match because it's, like, Great Khali, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we were near the stage, right? And all of a sudden, boom, right? Fucking Kane's pyro goes off. And, like, we weren't expecting him to come out. Not only was it loud as shit and hurt our ears, but also just scared the crap out of us.
And it was hot.
Yeah, it was really, you could feel it. You could feel the heat.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was the Night of Champions paper.
The Night of Champions, it was, yes.
And because of where we were,
I was dying from Beatus.
Yes.
Yeah.
The entire section, they ring the bell and be like, oh, coming into the ring, and everybody in our section would put their hands over their ears.
Yeah, a little bit because the music.
Because the music was so...
When
John Cena came out, and it was like, boom. A little blow the eardrums and poop.
I'm sure that probably upset Corey even more. That he was right there when John Cena came out, and it was literally like,
It must have been bad because I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't even remember him being there at that show.
Yeah,
because it was like Jeff Hardy and Triple H was or Randy Orton.
No. Because
it was a stretcher.
The two title matches were CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy.
That's what it was.
Yeah. And then
Orton, Triple H, and a stretcher, I guess.
It was so boring.
Something like
that.
The
actual main event was Triple H, Randy Orton, and like I don't ever need to see that match, not once, let alone 5 times.
Oh, and because it got rubbed in. Because the line took forever to get through.
It was a summer day.
The
Sacramento Arco Arena parking lot. 105 fucking degrees outside.
And that is not an exaggeration.
I was dying from diabetes.
And you didn't know yet. It was
I didn't
worse.
know.
You took no precautions.
So here we are dying in the heat, and they had a live stage. They're like, oh, well, we'll give them a little bit of live music to make up for the fact that they're dying. And like, what was it? It was a fucking band that played Randy Orton's theme.
Yeah.
And so they're sitting there going, I hit it for what about you, Brandon? Give us some more. What are some of your favorite memories of wrestling?
CM Punk's,
any era, yeah.
CM Punk's dropping the pipe bomb, and I legitimately became a CM Punk fan before he dropped his pipe bomb. It was actually his match that he had with Rey Mysterio prior to announcing that he was leaving the company. There was a point in the match where he had him on the ground. He had him in some kind of head scissors, and he motioned towards the camera like, he's my bitch now. And I just got to think to myself, CM Punk does not get the recognition he deserves.
Yeah.
And after that match, he announced he was,
he wasn't going to re-sign.
Yeah, he said. And he was going to be leaving the company with the belt. But it wasn't until where he rained on John Cena's little parade that that night in Las Vegas where CM Punk dropped the pipe bomb, that put him in like high contention.
It was a pretty good memory.
Honestly, I've gone back and watched it recently, and I still get that feeling of like, You're not supposed to say
You
that.
get that
You're not supposed to say, yeah, a little bit like, you can't say that.
He shouted out
breaking
to
the fourth wall.
He shouted out to Ring of Honor. He shouted
did.
out to Colt
Yeah.
Cabana.
And then they cut his mic when he started talking about Vince's
Vince
doofus
McMahon.
son-in-law, and then
His-
boom,
and his
Michael
idiot-
Coates,
his idiot daughter and his
yeah,
doofus
and then
son-in-law.
immediately,
Well, he
Mike
was
is
gonna,
off and
he
he's
was
mad.
going to bring up Vince McMahon being a bully and how they
yeah,
had
oh,
No,
that's true.
that's
That's
why.
right. Yeah,
He
it was
started
in the
to
middle of
say
an ad
they
campaign.
pushed this "Don't be a bully"
star,
campaign,
yeah.
but then
Yeah, I could tell you some stories about.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, he
pretty
could,
good.
just not on mic that
Yeah.
day, that
Yeah,
night.
pretty good.
Yeah.
But then he came. I brought a megaphone with me just in case they decide to cut off my mic again.
And then,
I think the night
huh,
Eddie Guerrero,
oh, the Eddie
like,
Guerrero
that stuff was like
celebration.
all of that stuff that led up to that match where Rey Mysterio won the belt,
Mm.
which we all kind of knew was just a thing for Eddie. But I remember you and I were watching that.
it was a good moment because he won the Royal Rumble before
Yeah.
that, and then going into that WrestleMania, it's like him and Kurt Angle and Randy Orton. I was like, he's not gonna win.
No, yeah, and then
But
he
then
wins,
he won, though.
and then Chris Benoit came out and gave him a hug, and
Oh wait, what are we doing?
right? Didn't Chris
Oh,
Benoit come out?
are you talking? No, you're
No,
thinking
that
of WrestleMania 20. Eddie and Benoit hugged at the end after they both had the
Oh.
championships.
Yeah.
Okay.
Benoit was already dead by that point, I think. Oh wait, no, was he?
I feel like he was.
Oh wait,
Was
no,
he?
no, because people theorized that's part of what drove. Even though it was also
yeah.
concussions,
Yes.
like he was like dead inside after his friend Eddie was dead. So maybe he was there. As a matter of fact, I think maybe he wrestled. He had a really good match against MVP on that same pay per
Was
view.
it? Okay.
Yeah, okay, so he was still alive. Just kidding. Maybe Benoit did come out then. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
I want to say because
Yeah.
it was a big moment that
Yeah.
he came out.
Yeah.
We'll have to double check those facts.
And Chavo.
Chavo.
And his wife probably, Eddie, Mrs. Eddie.
And when-
Unfortunately, she
Oh,
would
my-
become a thing later where she's like,
Excuse me.
yeah.
Oh,
But that's less her fault and more
Writing.
Writing.
Yeah.
But we're trying to keep this one positive.
Yeah.
So, positive.
The power of positivity.
So we're winding up the positive, but any last second thoughts? I mean, I got plenty of memories I could share, but I know that for one, I really liked the Hurricane. I liked Shane Helms' character, superhero character of the Hurricane, and he had like 3-week stretch where he beat like Ric Flair on TV. He wrestled Triple H. He beat The Rock.
Yep.
And that was like a big moment, you know. And I had a glimmer of hope that, like, dude, are they going to push this guy? Because he was super over, right? But then they did the thing what WWE does where they kind of forgot they were pushing him for a second, you know.
I guess I totally forgot Farouk and Bradshaw doing that. The APA was always fun.
Yeah.
And then someone like
you have to knock on the door.
You had to
You
knock on
around
the door. There was no walls, but there was a door.
Yes.
Yeah.
and then someone like Ultimo Dragon. I think
Poor Ultimo.
like WCW pushed their
Yeah.
like their lightweight division pretty hard.
They did. Ultimo was amazing.
And Ultimo Dragon, and then you had like Ray when he was younger. Ray now is on the comeback trail. He's doing some cool stuff.
Is he?
Yeah,
He has no knees, though.
Yeah.
No,
He misplaced them.
He's wrestling well.
Okay.
I
Lucha
guess he
Underground.
found some
I
new
will
knees.
believe it when I see it.
He's the trios champion on Lucha Underground
Fuck
right
off.
now.
Spoilers.
Dude, spoiler!
The episode was like 4 weeks ago, guys.
I don't watch. We don't watch.
We don't
got
watch
TV.
it.
We
I was
don't
going to
have
watch
TV.
from the beginning.
Yeah, we
now
don't
I guess I won't.
Yeah.
Another just two boats passing in the night. The thing that never was. When Paul Burchill believed he was a pirate
Absolutely.
for like a month. That was gold.
And he was so
That
over.
was
And then
amazing.
supposedly Vince put the axe on it because he didn't get the pirate gimmick. I'm like, it doesn't matter what you get.
Yeah.
The fans like it.
And,
Fuck off.
and this was
Right.
in the
Finisher.
heart of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
That was the joke.
But Vince
And
was
it's like,
dumb and he didn't know what the
Yeah, that's the-
Pirates of
that's
the
the
Caribbean
rumor.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His Paul Burchill's finisher was one of my favorite.
Oh,
that
that's
top
true.
rope.
Yes.
It didn't
exploder.
have a move. Well, I think it did have a move, but it was dumb. We called it walking the plane.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
backflip.
He would grab him
him
and do like a backflip
Yeah.
bomb with him, and it was really good.
It's an impressive move when people do it standing, just like a standing backflip
Yeah.
exploder.
Yeah.
Because there's some athleticism
Yeah.
to that. But off the top rope, I don't
Yeah.
know why. That was just badass.
There you go.
So it's kind of like sliced bread, like the Brian Kendrick did.
Well, kind of, except that is more of a bulldog where he
Yeah.
grabs him and like runs
Runs
up
up
the
the-
ropes and does a
Okay,
flip.
yeah.
More of a side slam that Ultimate Dragon did. But
imagine if The Rock went to do a rock bottom
but then
and
he
did the backflip
instead of slamming them.
and then do that from the top rope.
Of course, that's the kind of move that takes a lot of assistance from the other wrestlers. You can't really do that.
Yeah.
You're not gonna.
Spoilers. You can't really do that.
You're not gonna give Big Show the top rope exploder.
I want to see somebody. I want to see. I think John Cena could. Real talk. I don't want to put a bitter note on this, but John Cena had Big Show and Edge on his shoulders at one point.
And he didn't die. I mean, it's a real shame.
The double FU.
Double F. No, the double attitude adjustment. Yeah.
Wasn't it known as an FU before?
Absolutely.
Yes,
and his STF was the STFU.
Yeah.
Get it? Shut the fuck up.
Because it was basically an F5. It was a gag on the F5.
Yeah.
So they called it an FU.
Yeah.
His Brock Lesnar.
Even though it's literally just like...
It's far less impressive.
I flop them over on their back.
Pick a guy up and put him back down.
It's not even like a good Death Valley
it's technically
driver.
known as a fireman's carry.
A standing fireman's carry.
You make an F with your body, and when you toss him over, they make the U.
You know what was a good finisher, even though he wasn't a good wrestler?
Who?
The torture rack.
Oh,
Lex Luger. Yeah.
The narcissist.
That's true. He started out as a narcissist.
Which is funny.
Word has it that he actually liked playing the narcissist much better. When Vince... He said he has said since that when Vince tried to push him as like the new Hogan, because Hogan was gone, and they tried to push him as the All-American, and they did the Lex Express tour, and he was building him up to beat Yokozuna and be the new champion, but it wasn't really working. Like, Lex he wasn't feeling it because that wasn't him. He wasn't the All-American good old boy, you know.
Yeah, he was a narcissist. I care more about myself.
I feel bad for not mentioning Mr. Perfect.
Kurt Hennig.
Yeah,
Perfect Plex.
The Perfect Plex. Another good, technical... move into the pin.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I always liked... Because I really don't like those big, asshole kind of characters.
Sure.
But him just always spitting his gum and then swatting into the crowd.
Yeah, no.
I don't know why.
The fact that he could do that.
Yeah.
With such precision.
How?
And he always had great promos.
Also,
behind the head.
Speaking of from that era, I think we'd be remiss before we're done with this section if we don't mention, since he died last year, Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
He was...
Rest in peace, Roddy.
He was one of the greatest to never have a world championship. And I was talking with Brandon about this the other night. Is that I think was one of Vince's greatest blunders in the 80s. For as much of a genius as people say Vince is, he's had a lot of slip-ups. And one of them was dude, after WrestleMania 1... the money would have been on having the asshole Roddy Piper, who cares how he got it. He wins the belt from Hogan, and then Hogan has to spend the whole year trying to win it back, and Roddy just finds ways to keep it every time. And so you get to WrestleMania 2, and the big payoff, the no-brainer that sells itself, is that Hogan Piper, WrestleMania 2, Hogan gets the title back, done, right? Piper gets the title he deserved. You get a much better main event. But instead, McMahon thought, hey, you know what should main event WrestleMania 2? Hogan, King Kong Bundy, Cage. No, not really. Sorry, Piper.
Because Piper was one of those characters. He's one of those guys who, he was never really a heel. And he's never really a face. Well,
sure.
He, cheated and stuff.
Yeah, he did.
But he was always that guy where, even if he was doing the heel stuff and he was cheating, he always won over the crowd.
Incorrigible.
But he was also one of the hottest heels, one of the hottest things at that point in 1986. It's dude, come on.
He's just one of those. And I think at that time too, when people were pushed as a heel, you were supposed to boo them.
Yeah.
You were supposed to hate these people. And I always felt that Piper just...
Another guy that pulled that off was Jake the Snake.
Yeah.
He was a fucking asshole, but people would cheer him, But, there you go. Wrestling memories, reminiscing. We didn't get too much into what we're going to get into soon. And Corey's going to go off the rails, probably.